Good afternoon, children. This is your host, your friend Akash, back with you. Now, children, we've already dealt with quite a few topics in English grammar, and step by step, we are walking ahead right up to that difficult task called speaking in English. So, by now, if you compile all these videos that I have framed up for you, you will find out that we've done quite a bit to contribute to learning English. Children, what you see here up till now is that we've done a lot of theoretical analysis of English. Now, the same theory has to be inculcated or put into execution in terms of speaking in English. Until you do that, speaking in English, the linguistic skills or the linguistic part of this language called English will always be untouched. So, whenever you are at ease, whenever you are free back at home, not doing anything particular, so that is the time when you hit back onto these adjectives, onto these nouns, phrases, clauses, and all the other things and topics that I've covered until now. Because that is the time when you're trying to, troubleshoot your mind, when you're trying to revise everything, come to something that is really required. So, random revisions, unplanned revisions are what you should target in order to get to the core understanding of what we have studied until today. That is how I have done it. Therefore, that is how make you understand that you people should do it in the same manner. Might prove a bit of help to you. Alright, children. So let's begin with today's class. Now we are heading towards adjectives today. Now, what are adjectives? You casually call them describing words, children. Now that is fine for a very primitive kind of a definition for this topic called adjective or adjectives. But there are several ways. If you remember, with the very first of my video that I have shared with you, the teachings that I tried to lay down on you by the use of my first video, I told you that English as a language is quite flexible. If you want to say something, there are multiple infinite ways of saying that particular thing or to convey that message. So similarly, I'm going to give you a glimpse of how flexible English can get. Only the understanding must be there. Now here you see another image that shows different kinds of adjectives. A few that I can read out to you are bright, dark, chief, brown, bitter, chemical, boiling, certain, broken, blue, black, and there are many more: fat, dry, etc. Now, children, these are all adjectives, provided you place them in the correct position in a sentence. Otherwise, they might end up being something else. So, if you remember, placement of words is something that we've already discussed, right? So, everything is quite important here that we've discussed, and everything has to be compiled in a chronological, in a serial order. Now, what are adjectives? Children, people who teach English grammar, who teach linguistic skills, can define or can give hundreds of definitions, multiple definitions to this word called adjectives. Here, in the same manner, I have framed a few for you so that you understand what exactly adjectives are. Now, the first one says adjectives can be defined as modifiers. Now, where does this word come from? Modifier. Now, children, if you remember, or let us say for a random example, when you buy a car, when you purchase a motorbike or just a bicycle, uh, you make amendments, you make changes, you modify it. Sometimes you install gas, sometimes you install LED lights, something else. So these are all modifications, these are all add-ons that you put onto your vehicle that you've already purchased, right? So that's a modifier. In the same manner, if you modify a noun or a pronoun for that matter, that word that modifies it is called a modifier. So adjectives tend to be modifiers as well. Second definition says adjectives can be defined as decorators. Now, children, let's head to the third one as well so that we can take these two down together. Now, adjectives can be defined as adornments. Both these mean something that decorates your place, your room, etc. Right? So, adjectives can be defined as decorators or adjectives can be defined as adornments. The ornaments that your parents wear, particularly your mother wears while she goes out for some party or for something else. Those are called adornments that she's wearing because she's trying to decorate herself, right? So that is adornment. Adjectives exactly and fairly play the same role. The fourth definition is adjectives can be defined as beautifiers. What do you mean by beautifier? A beautifier is a word or a group of words that beautify, that adorn, that decorates, right? Okay. The second last definition to the adjective or to the word adjective says adjectives are words that clarify or describe more about a noun or a pronoun for that matter. Everything that forms the subject in a sentence, if it is being described by using a word or a group of words, that means those words or those group of words are called adjectives. The last one says adjectives tell us more about a noun or a pronoun. So here we are, the major concern in a sentence for us is the subject, and everything, every word that details us about that noun or a pronoun which has formed the subject of the sentence is called an adjective, right? Now, this is a discrete concept. This concept called adjectives is a discrete concept. Everybody can give you several types of explanation. Just like if I say somebody is trying to teach you science, or let us say friction for that matter. Now, friction is defined as simply the force that opposes any sort of a motion or any sort of a state. This is a very simple definition to the word friction, whereas this word can have several other definitions attached to it that describes or explains it perfectly. Now, since it's a discrete word, that means everybody will have a discrete opinion for it. Now, here I've given you eight particular types of adjectives that will always be there in a sentence if you've used them. Now, the first one is descriptive, one that describes, right? So I can also call it qualitative. For example, if I say uh, X is a boy who is thin, lean, skinny. So that word lean, skinny, or thin, it describes. What sort of a description is it? It's a qualitative description. So it's a descriptive adjective. Otherwise, somebody would say it's a qualitative adjective, right? Or a quality adjective. So here where discretion, this is where discretion comes into play. So the next up we have quantitative, something that shows the quantity of it. For example, of anything. For example, if I say some, then few, little, a few, a little. So these are all quantitative adjectives. Now, if I say one, two, three, these are all numeral adjectives. If I say first, second, this again falls under numeral adjectives, but then they are known as cardinal numbers, right? So this is a different concept altogether. We will come to it at a later on stage, not here. So quantitative means something that points out, something that decorates the quantity of the subject. So the major role will be played by the subject, and then the defining words or the quality giving words, the quantity giving words will be the quantitative adjectives or the qualitative adjectives. The third category we have here is distributive adjectives. So distribute means if I say every person, each child. So these are all distributive adjectives. Demonstrative. Now imagine I'm working by the table, and there's a pile of books kept on the table, and that pile belongs to somebody else, not me, of course. So I can say these books or those books are not mine. So I'm pointing and demonstrating something, right? Next we have possessive, something that shows proprietorship, ownership, or possession, simply possession. So if I say this book is mine, so the first word this becomes a demonstrative adjective. Then if I say book is mine, mine is the adjective that falls in the category of possessive adjectives. Why? Because it shows possession, it shows proprietorship, it shows ownership, that this book belongs to me, it's mine. All right. Next up, we have interrogative adjectives. Interrogative. Now, this is more of an official word than a casual word, because now the first time when I came across, I'm just sharing an experience, please don't mind. Now, the first time when I came across this word interrogative was in the form of a noun called interrogation. The police pick up subjects or suspected people for interrogation. So that is where I heard this word for the first time ever. So interrogative means asking questions. So anything, any adjective that asks a question becomes an interrogative adjective. For example, what, which, whom, whose, etc. Now, next up we've got indefinite adjectives, and then we've got articles. These two will form the easiest categories to be noted down when you are dealing with adjectives in sentences. All right. So next up, I've given you a few examples here. I don't say these are the only examples, but these are just a few of the many that I have quoted. So fair, dark, tall, honest, handsome, visible, capable. What do I see here? I see something, or the words, or these are like decorators, adornments that describe the personality of a human being. Now, if I say A is a person, so A can be fair, A can be dark, A can be tall, A can be honest, A can be handsome and visible or capable as well. Now, next up, we've got big, transparent, professional, amateur, ominous, devilish. Now, what you see here is a mixture of different kinds of attributes in single or individually used words. So, this is the variety that you need to provide yourself with in order to understand and comprehend more and more, and of course better. All right, next up we've got quantitative adjectives: much, more, many, few, first, second, one, two, then half, whole, some, little. All these words are adjectives that point to a certain quantity. Sometimes the quantity being pointed out by these individual words are clear and apparent, and sometimes they are, of course, ambiguous, that are unknown, right? Next up, we've got distributive adjectives. Now, as I've already defined them using a bit of examples belonging to the same category, those were each, every, neither, either, any, one, both, everyone, none. Now, children, if you see, there is one word here that I see to be falling as a common entity in the category of distributive or quantitative adjectives. Now, again, it comes down to how you use it, where you place it in a sentence. So, one will function sometimes as a distributive adjective and some other time as a quantitative adjective. Next up, we've got demonstrative adjective. These, those, this, these. As I told you, a pile of books lying on my table by the side of which I'm working, and that does not belong to me. So I can say those books, that pile of books, right? Then you've got possessive adjectives. One, or adjectives that show possession, proprietorship, or ownership. My, his, her, its, our, your, their, whose, etc. Interrogative, the ones that ask a question that starts off a questioning tone. So those are which, whose, what, etc. Now, children, you can make several examples, as in several sentences, where you can use these particular adjectives, and you will easily come to know which one falls in which category. So the more you practice, the better you understand, as has been the bottom line of every learning lesson of mine, right? Next, we head to the indefinite one again. That is sometimes quantitative, sometimes qualitative, but yet you don't have the apparence, or the let us say the clarity of what that definition is. So if I say indefinite adjectives, any I don't any child can come out of the class and help me carrying these pile of books along with me. So any means I am talking to a group of students, possibly sitting inside the class, and I want one child. So it is indefinite, but then again, any tells one, any one child. I need any child to come to me. So in that case, it is indefinite. One of the children sitting inside the class can come to me. and it is ambiguous. We don't know which child am I talking about, right? Each, few, most, many, several, some. I have several toffees. I don't in my pocket. Now I don't know how many they are. Neither do you. So again, it is indefinite, but then quantitative at the same time. All right. Now articles functioning as adjectives is very easy to understand. I eat an egg every day. So if I use an here, it shows me the quantity. I eat an egg today. An egg from my carton broke. So that's very easy. An egg from my crate or carton broke. So one egg, that means. Right? Now, why do we use an instead of a here? Because egg starts with a vowel sound. So every time I see a word starting with a vowel sound and I need to use a quantifier here or an adjective to show the quantity, I will use an in this case. Right? And if it's at random. So a and the. These are articles that often function as adjectives. We have some other examples of adjectives here. There can be several, as I already told you. Here I've quoted a few with different varieties, right? So I wrote a rotten egg, uh, an egg that has rotten, a healthy diet, a holy congregation, a broken window, the triggered world, an old man, an egg, either boys, a bad drink, several tornadoes, a lively performance. So, children, rotten, healthy, broken, holy, divine, good, triggered, old, and lively, either, bad, and several are all a variety of examples of adjectives. Now let me again brief you with certain minute details here. If I talk about the two words in the very first sentence, those are rotten, sorry, in the very first line, those are rotten and broken. Now children, ever in your life when you encounter these words in these forms, en, broken, rotten, you will see that these actually are verbs in their third form, the past participle form. But then I told you, if you place them elsewhere, they start functioning differently. So I've placed these two words, those primarily were third forms of their individual verbs, but here they are not the verbs, but they are functioning as adjectives because they tell us about what kind of an egg it is. It is a rotten egg, or an egg that is stale, that is not worth eating now. A broken window, a window that is now broke, right? So similarly, when you place them at different positions, you are definitely asking them to function differently. This is what you need to practice and observe most of all. So that's it for today. I'm trying to keep it as short as possible. I don't want me to give you an elaboration of everything. I want you to brief. I want like I want you to understand that this is a briefing and the exploration part has to be done by you. Of course, my help is always there. I'm just a buzz away. Mail me, put your comments there on the comment box, and I will always be there to serve you. Thank you, children. Please keep safe and eat healthy.